In the heart of Manchester, where grey skies often hung low and cold winds whispered through narrow streets, Emily Thompson stood behind the cafe counter, her dreams feeling as fragile as the porcelain cups she carefully washed. At 24, life had dealt her a challenging hand. The small photograph of her mother, tucked quietly beside the cash register, reminded her of everything she had lost. Emily's mornings began before sunrise. She would wake in her tiny one-room apartment, her alarm clock breaking the silent darkness. Her small room told a story of struggle. Nursing textbooks stacked carefully beside second-hand uniforms, and a pinboard filled with hospital job applications, most marked with polite rejection letters. Her mother's medical bills had consumed their modest savings. Cancer was an expensive battle, one that had ultimately claimed not just a life, but also Emily's dreams of becoming a nurse. Each month, she juggled between paying utility bills and saving a tiny amount for her future education. The mathematics was brutal and unforgiving. The cafe where she worked was a modest establishment, nestled between an old bookshop and a hardware store. Mrs. Williams, the owner, was kind but practical. She understood Emily's situation, but ran a business, not a charity. Emily's shifts were long, starting at 6 in the morning and often ending after the evening rush. Her colleagues saw her as the quiet, hard-working girl who never complained. She would serve hot coffee with a gentle smile, her hands moving swiftly between cups and customers. Her uniform was always clean, her apron pressed, reflecting her inner discipline and hope. During her brief breaks, Emily would study. Nursing textbooks balanced precariously on her lap while she ate a quick sandwich. Her dreams of wearing a nurse's uniform remained vivid, a constant reminder of what she wanted most. She remembered her mother's words, "Education is the key. My darling, never let anyone tell you otherwise." The cafe's regulars knew her story without her speaking. The elderly gentleman who always ordered black coffee with 2 sugars would sometimes leave an extra pound as a tip. The school teachers who stopped by in the morning would smile encouragingly. They saw her potential, her quiet determination. Manchester's weather mirrored Emily's internal struggle, sometimes bright with possibility, often cloudy with uncertainty. She had applied to nursing schools multiple times, each rejection feeling like a personal blow, but she never allowed herself to break. Her mother had taught her resilience was more important than immediate success. Her tiny savings account reflected her commitment. Every extra pound was carefully tucked away, a testament to her dreams. She worked additional weekend shifts, sometimes cleaning offices after her cafe job. Her determination was her most significant asset. At night, returning to her small apartment, Emily would review her applications. She knew her dream wasn't impossible. It was just waiting for the right moment. Her mother's medical journey had shown her the importance of compassionate healthcare. She wanted to be that compassionate nurse who understood patients' fears and provided comfort. The photograph of her mother watched her constantly, a silent motivator. Her mother, a single parent who had worked multiple jobs to provide for Emily, had always believed in education. Even during her illness, she would encourage Emily. Her eyes filled with hope and love. Emily's world was small but significant. Her dreams were not about becoming famous or wealthy. She wanted to help people, to make a difference in their most vulnerable moments. Her experiences had taught her that healthcare was more than medical procedures. It was about human connection. As winter approached, bringing its characteristic Manchester chill, Emily continued her routine. Wake up early, work hard, study harder. Her resilience was her weapon against circumstances that tried to define her limitations. Little did she know that her life was about to change. Sometimes hope arrives unexpectedly, wearing the most ordinary disguise, and for Emily Thompson, that hope was just around the corner, waiting to transform her carefully preserved dreams into reality. Her story was not just about survival. It was about holding on to hope when the world suggested giving up. It was about understanding that dreams have their own timeline, and patience was the most critical ingredient in achieving them. In the bustling cafe, with its warm coffee and constant chatter, Emily continued her journey, one cup, one smile, one dream at a time. The rain tapped against the cafe's windows, creating a rhythmic melody that matched the gentle clinking of coffee cups. It was a typical Tuesday morning when Richard Davies first walked in, his weathered hands clutching an old leather briefcase. He moved slowly, each step measured and deliberate, speaking of a lifetime of experiences. Emily noticed him immediately. Unlike most customers who rushed through their morning coffee, Richard seemed in no hurry. He would sit at the same corner table, order a black coffee with 2 sugars, and spread out some papers. His glasses perched carefully on his nose, and his tweed jacket spoke of a bygone era of professionalism. For weeks, Richard became a familiar presence. He would arrive precisely at 8:15, just as the morning rush began to settle. Emily would prepare his coffee with care, noticing how he would glance at her nursing textbooks when she took a moment to study during quiet periods. One particularly dreary morning, Richard dropped a folded newspaper near Emily's study materials. As she reached to pick it up, he spoke for the first time beyond his usual coffee order. "Nursing is a noble profession," he said, his voice carrying a warmth that seemed to cut through the cold morning. Emily looked up, surprised by his direct observation. Her usual reserved demeanor gave way to a moment of vulnerability. "It's been my dream," she responded quietly, not expecting further conversation. Richard's eyes twinkled with understanding. He had seen countless young people with dreams, having spent his entire career in hospital administration. He recognized the familiar mix of hope and struggle in Emily's eyes, a look he remembered from his own youth. Over the next few weeks, their conversations grew. Richard would share stories of his years in healthcare management, subtle hints of advice woven into his narratives. He spoke of challenges he had overcome, of young professionals who had made significant differences in healthcare. Emily listened, her notebook often open, capturing not just his words but the wisdom between them. She began to see Richard as more than just a regular customer. He was becoming an unexpected mentor. One morning, Richard arrived with a different demeanor. He pulled out a folder filled with scholarship application forms for healthcare professionals. "Sometimes," he said, sliding the papers towards her, "opportunities need a gentle push." The gesture was simple but profound. Emily realized this was more than random kindness. Richard had been observing her, understanding her struggle and now offering a lifeline. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked through the documents. Scholarship applications were expensive, and the process seemed overwhelming. Richard sensed her hesitation. "You have potential," he said simply. "Don't let financial constraints dim your dreams." Their conversations became more frequent. Richard would arrive early, helping Emily review her application materials during quiet moments. He shared contacts, reviewed her personal statements, and provided guidance that went beyond mere paperwork. The cafe staff watched this unusual friendship with curiosity. A young waitress and an elderly gentleman, connected by a shared passion for healthcare and human potential. Mrs. Williams, the cafe owner, would smile knowingly, recognizing the magic of unexpected mentorship. Emily's confidence began to grow. Richard's belief in her was slowly replacing her self-doubt. He didn't just provide practical help, he restored her faith in her own capabilities. As winter settled over Manchester, their connection deepened. Richard spoke of his late wife, nurse who had inspired his entire career. Emily shared stories about her mother's medical journey. Their conversations became a bridge between generations, between personal struggles and professional dreams. The scholarship applications represented more than just potential financial support. They were a symbol of hope, of someone believing in her potential when she had started to lose faith in herself. Richard never presented himself as a savior. He was a guide, a mentor who understood that true support meant helping someone recognize their own strength. His approach was gentle, strategic, always positioning Emily as the protagonist of her own story. As another rainy Manchester morning passed, Emily realized that sometimes hope arrives in the most unexpected packages. A chance encounter, a kind stranger, a moment of unexpected connection. These were the ingredients that could transform a dream from impossible to inevitable. Little did she know, her life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. Richard's mentorship transformed slowly, like watercolors blending on a canvas. He understood that guidance wasn't about grand gestures, but consistent, subtle support. Each Tuesday and Thursday, he would arrive at the cafe with something purposeful. Sometimes a recommended book, occasionally a newspaper clipping about nursing scholarships, often a quiet word of encouragement. Emily's world began to expand beyond her tiny apartment and cafe counter. Richard shared stories from his decades in hospital administration, painting vivid pictures of healthcare's human side. He spoke about nurses who had changed lives, not through extraordinary skills, but through genuine compassion. Nursing, he would explain, stirring his coffee slowly, is more about understanding human vulnerability than medical procedures. His words resonated deeply with Emily, who had witnessed her mother's challenging medical journey. Richard started helping her strategically. He introduced her to networking opportunities, helping her polish her resume and sharing contacts from his extensive professional network. His approach was never about doing things for her, but empowering her to do them herself. Some evenings after her cafe shift, Emily would meet Richard at a quiet corner cafe. They would review scholarship applications, discussion her personal statement, and discuss potential career paths. His guidance was precise yet compassionate, challenging her to think beyond her current circumstances. Manchester's cold winter seemed to soften around their developing relationship. Richard saw in Emily a reflection of his younger self, ambitious, determined, yet constrained by financial limitations. He remembered his own struggles decades ago, when opportunities were scarce and determination was the primary currency. Emily's confidence began to grow. The timid waitress, who once barely spoke to customers, now approached challenges with calculated confidence. Richard had taught her that education wasn't just about academic achievements, but about understanding human experiences. He shared stories about hospital management, explaining how successful healthcare professionals combined technical skills with emotional intelligence. Emily absorbed these lessons, recognizing that her personal experiences of loss and struggle could become her greatest professional strength. Financial constraints remained a significant challenge. Richard understood this intimately. He didn't offer direct financial support, but guided her towards scholarship opportunities, government assistance programs, and part-time study options that could complement her work. Their meetings became a sanctuary of possibilities. Richard would bring old nursing journals, highlighting remarkable stories of professionals who had overcome significant obstacles. Each story was a subtle lesson in resilience, carefully chosen to inspire without overwhelming. Emily started attending evening classes, balancing her cafe work with educational pursuits. Richard helped her create a structured study plan, breaking down seemingly impossible goals into manageable steps. He taught her time management, showing her how to maximize limited resources. The cafe staff watched this transformation with quiet admiration. Mrs. Williams, the owner, would sometimes join their conversations, offering her own experiences of professional growth. Emily was no longer just a waitress. She was becoming a future healthcare professional. Richard's approach was strategic yet deeply human. He understood that mentorship wasn't about creating a perfect path, but about helping someone navigate their unique journey. He shared his failures as openly as his successes, demonstrating that setbacks were learning opportunities. As weeks turned into months, Emily's application materials became stronger. Richard's professional eye helped her highlight her unique experiences, transforming personal challenges into compelling narrative strengths. Their meetings weren't just about scholarships or career planning. They became conversations about life, resilience, and human potential. Richard shared stories about his late wife, a nurse who had inspired his entire perspective on healthcare. Emily realized that mentorship was a delicate dance of guidance and personal discovery. Richard wasn't trying to create a carbon copy of himself, but helping her discover her own professional identity. Manchester's grey skies seemed to hold less intimidation now. Emily was learning that dreams weren't about grand, sudden transformations, but consistent, determined steps forward. As another evening meeting concluded, Richard smiled, a smile that carried decades of wisdom. He saw in Emily not just a potential nurse, but a future healthcare professional who would bring genuine compassion to her work. Their unexpected connection was proving that sometimes the most significant opportunities arrive disguised as ordinary moments waiting to be recognized by those brave enough to see them. The nursing school corridors felt both intimidating and exciting. Emily walked through them with a mixture of nervousness and determination, her worn cafe shoes replaced by crisp white nursing shoes. Every step represented years of struggle, hope, and unexpected mentorship. Richard attended her first university, orientation, sitting quietly at the back of the hall. His presence was a silent reminder of the journey that had brought her here. Emily caught his eye occasionally, sharing small smiles that spoke volumes about their unique connection. Her classmates came from diverse backgrounds, some straight from school, others like her, carrying life experiences that shaped their healthcare perspectives. Emily discovered that her years of working in the cafe had given her something special, an ability to understand human vulnerability. The first few months were challenging. Medical terminology felt like a foreign language. Anatomy books seemed impossibly complex, but Emily remembered Richard's words. Learning is a journey, not a destination. She approached each challenge with the same determination she had used to survive difficult cafe shifts. Her personal story became her strength. When discussing patient care, Emily could draw from her mother's medical experiences. Her classmates were impressed by her compassionate approach, her ability to see patients as humans, not just medical cases. Richard continued to support her, though now from a distance. He would send occasional care packages, medical journals, encouraging notes, sometimes homemade cookies that reminded her of home. Their connection had transformed from daily mentorship to a deeper, more meaningful friendship. Weekends often found Emily volunteering at local community health centers. She applied her growing medical knowledge while maintaining the warmth she had learned working in the cafe. Patients responded to her genuine care, her ability to listen beyond medical symptoms. Manchester seemed different now. The city that once represented her limitations now symbolized her potential. The cafe where she had worked became a cherished memory, the place where her transformation began. Mrs. Williams would visit her occasionally, pride shining in her eyes. Her first practical nursing assignment came with intense emotions. Standing beside patients, applying medical skills learned through countless hours of study, Emily felt her mother's spirit guiding her. Each patient became more than a medical case. They were humans deserving compassion and understanding. Richard attended her first major university presentation. As Emily discussed a complex patient care scenario, he watched with quiet pride. The timid cafe worker had transformed into a confident, compassionate healthcare professional. Financial challenges hadn't disappeared completely. Emily continued to work part-time, balancing her studies with occasional cafe shifts. But now these shifts felt different. They were choices, not desperate necessities. Her scholarship provided a foundation. Her determination provided the rest. Her classmates began to see her as more than just a student. She became a source of inspiration, someone who had overcome significant obstacles to pursue her dream. Younger students would seek her advice. Understanding her journey represented more than academic achievement. The university recognized her exceptional progress. Her professors noted her unique approach to patient care, her ability to blend technical, medical knowledge with genuine human compassion. Awards and recognition followed, but Emily remained humble. Richard's health began to decline, but his spirit remained strong. He would attend her university events when possible, his presence a constant reminder of the unexpected mentorship that had changed her life. Their connection had become a beautiful example of how human kindness could transform futures. Graduation day arrived like a dream. Emily wore her nursing uniform with pride, her family and Richard sitting in the audience. Tears mixed with joy as she received her nursing qualification. The journey from a struggling cafe worker to a qualified nurse seemed almost unbelievable. Her first official nursing position came at the same hospital where her mother had received treatment. Walking those corridors felt like completing a sacred mission. Every patient she cared for was a tribute to her mother's memory, to Richard's guidance, to her own resilience. Manchester had witnessed her transformation. From a small cafe to university halls, Emily's journey represented hope. She had proven that dreams don't have expiration dates, that compassion and determination could overcome any obstacle. As she adjusted her nurse's cap, Emily knew her real journey was just beginning. Her story was a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of unexpected mentorship, human kindness, and unwavering determination.